I'm not sure that one of the biggest foodies is the thing I'd like to be most remembered for, but anyway, it's a good thing to be at a restaurant association and be a big foodie, I guess. So, on that good note, let me start um, by first thanking my friend Japte Jalwalia, who first came to my office and explained to me about the association and the Chennai chapter. And then my new friends who I had the pleasure of lunch with this afternoon, Kabir Suri, Rahul Singh, Sagar Daryani, Vignesh Gurudas, and Prakul Kumar. Very, very interesting discussion about some of the issues facing the industry. But, trade associations play a very important part in any industry. When I was a consultant back in the US in the late 80s, early 90s, I've worked with many of them, the Society of Automobile Engineers, the Rubber Manufacturers Association, the UAW, United Auto Workers. So whether you're management, whether you're entrepreneurs, whether you're unions, coming together to support each other, to provide mentorship, to do combined lobbying, to navigate difficult times like the pandemic has been. I think this is a very vital component of your journey. And so I'm very happy today to be here to launch this Chennai chapter. I think it's very timely because I was just having a conversation with some people and saying that although I must confess I'm not as big a foodie as I was made out to be, I'm just in really bad shape because I work too much and don't exercise enough. I wish I was a bigger foodie than I really am. But I used to travel maybe 40, 50 weeks a year. So I rarely left my house when I was in Chennai. I was based in Singapore. My family was here. I used to fly back and forth. And because I used to eat out 4 or 5 days a week when I was in Singapore or traveling around the world as a banker, I never stepped out of the house when I was home. Then I became a politician and it became harder to even go because you have to be careful about where you're seen and what you do and so forth. But even within my own little kind of cocoon, I could sense that the restaurant scene in Chennai was changing quite dramatically. And so in the last 4 or 5 years, personally, I've experienced through attending events, dinners, other kind of opportunities, I'll talk about them in a minute, that there's been a huge explosion both in the talent, the innovation, the variety of cuisine. And so I'm very happy that this association chapter is a part of that growth of the industry. In any economy, we look for different components at different times. In the case of Tamil Nadu, particularly as the kind of migration away from China in logistics and supply, the diversification of risk after all the European anxieties, as those forces focus towards India in general, we in Tamil Nadu are very keen that we should get our fair share of those investment opportunities and job opportunities and ensure that our youth get to have the kind of career and our society gets the rate of growth of the economy that we can deliver to the best of our abilities. In that sense, especially for large metropolis like Chennai, a couple of things are crucial. Of course, livability in general, pollution, traffic, cost of living, etc. But also the entertainment, the nightlife, the restaurants, the bars, all these things are very important. So one component of that, you guys are doing a good job, that you've now brought such an explosion of new cuisines, new restaurants, new bakeries, new ice creameries, that there's, absolutely, we're spoiled for choice, at least relative to where we were a few years ago. As a state government, we need to do a little bit more. I think it's very clear to all of us that our current alcohol and distribution policy leaves a lot to be desired. So it's already in active discussion that we cannot attract the kind of global talent we need to unless we really deregulate at least some of the retail aspects of the the alcohol industry. And it's not clear to me that we are achieving any great reduction in either alcoholism or drunk driving or any of the ills to society that could arise from alcohol with the current policy that we have. So I think both ways there's very limited downside and there's significant upside were we to do this right. And certainly we're looking at it, and hopefully in the near future we'll make some changes. But I just want to conclude by touching on one aspect. I didn't know Japtej, I didn't know any of the restaurants till about a year ago. I was very focused on my work. When I was an opposition MLA, I was rarely in Chennai. And then I became minister. And not only did I have to be in Chennai a lot, but I had to entertain a lot. One thing I learned from the consulting and banking industries is that even if there's a good fit in every other way at a macro level, at an institutional level and all that, personal relationships drive a lot of things, set the pace and the tone for a lot of things. So I go out of my way to entertain visitors from overseas, from big corporates at home. And for good or bad, my official residence took a long time to renovate. So I happened to live close to my official residence, or at my personal residence or at the official one, I entertained. And I think Japtej was first introduced to me sometime a year ago. And since then, I've had maybe a dozen occasions, ambassadors, billionaires, artists, professors, our Economic Advisory Council, as you know, very notable Nobel Prize winners included. So many people have been home for dinner, and almost invariably it's some kind of cuisine that Japtej caters, and that has been actually very well received by all my guests, including really, really discerning people who have a choice of many, 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 many restaurants around the world to eat in. And so I must first tell you that you're world class, right? Anybody here? And your innovation. So, and it has helped. It has helped strengthen a lot of our relationships. It has helped place Tamil Nadu in the minds of people. A lot of people go for business meetings, but you get them home and give them a good meal and good company, and they leave happy. They remember that for a long time. So you're in a profession or an industry where you can bring that kind of goodwill and good relationships and good, what can I say, integration. And so I wish you all well. I know you've had a very hard couple of years. So has the industry worldwide. I was in New York recently, where I used to live for many years, but I hadn't been in many years, and I was recently there. And I noticed some changes have become permanent. There's a notion of expanding restaurant space to outdoors and to tents and to kind of, during the regulations, expand the interperson spacing. All those have effectively become permanent, and the restaurant business is recovering faster than it otherwise would have, because these concessions have stayed in a place like New York where rent is so high. So I'm sure here also, while the recovery is going to be difficult, while you're going to have to adapt to all the supply chain shortages, the labor shortages, the disruptions, it will also have made you more resilient and made you innovate better. I know there are some issues around the GST. I had an extensive discussion this afternoon. I was enlightened about the problems. But as you know, the GST system has many, many flaws. So I'm not a shy critic, I'm an open critic. But it's a system we have, and we have to improve it as best we can. So we'll certainly consider doing that and doing whatever we can to help both the Chennai chapter, the association, and the industry otherwise. So let me thank you once again for inviting me. I apologize for the slight confusion in the timing. I thought 7 o'clock when they said 7:30. In the end, it turned out to be 8 o'clock. But I wish you all a successful and happy event today. Much help from the chapter as you grow your businesses, and success with dealing with your industry issues. For the state government, the central government, we'll certainly do our part. We understand the value of this industry and this association at the government of Tamil Nadu, and we're committed to supporting you as best we can. Thank you again.